What's up guys, it's Casey from Freefall Data Systems. Over the last couple months we've made a couple minor modifications to the firmware of both ColorAlti and SonoAlti. And these modifications are described in detail on the firmware section of both these products on our website. While we're always glad to have you guys send in your altimeters to have us do an upgrade for you of the firmware free of charge, in this video I'm going to show you how you can do that yourself using a specially created batch file on a macOS computer. So the first thing you're going to do is go ahead and go to the SonoAlti or ColorAlti webpage on our website and then click Firmware at the very bottom. After that, before we get started with downloading the actual files, we're going to go ahead and switch on the Bluetooth on the ColorAlti or SonoAlti and then plug it into the computer, and you should see the red LED come on as well. After that, we're going to go ahead and download the required files, and there are 3 of them. The first is called FDS Firmware Updater.command, and that is the actual batch file. And so go ahead and download that first, and then after that comes avrdude.conf, and that is a configuration file for avrdude, which is the actual library that flashes the firmware onto the altimeter. And last but not least, the SonoAlti firmware. Now after you do that, you're going to have to give the batch file permission to be used. Go ahead and type in terminal into the search at the top there to open terminal, which is the command line program for Unix or Mac. And then you're going to have to type in chmod space u+x space, and then go ahead and drag over that batch file to copy its address there. Press return. You may have to enter a password there. After this, go ahead and double click on the batch file, and you will probably get a message that it can't be opened because it's from an unidentified developer. In that case, go ahead and go to System Preferences and then Security at the top there, General tab, and then you will see a message that it was blocked, and you can press Open anyway. That will go ahead and run the file after you press Open there. And basically from here you're just going to follow prompts. You go ahead and press return when it says that there, and then you might have to enter your password several times. But basically what it's doing here is it's installing something called Homebrew, which makes installing libraries onto a Mac computer a whole lot easier. And after it does all these installations, it's going to install avrdude, which is the program that's going to be used to flash the firmware onto the altimeter. So you can see it's working there. Basically still installing Homebrew there. And update Homebrew, and then at this point it's going to start installing some dependencies for avrdude, so there are a couple libraries that it depends on. And then you can see we actually had an error there, and I put this in here for a reason. We encountered this on several computers. If this happens to you, go ahead and unplug your altimeter and plug it back in and run it again, and it should run fine. And this is what you should see basically when it runs correctly. So I'm kind of running through it again. It should go faster this time because it already installed Homebrew and avrdude. So here it goes. And you can see at that moment it was updating the firmware there, and you can see that it says reading 100%, verifying, and then it says 28262 bytes of flash verified. That number might be different, but it should say a certain number of bytes of flash verified, and then you know you're set to go. If you guys have any issues with this process, just let us know. We're always glad to help you guys out, or as I said, we're glad to go ahead and do a firmware upgrade for you free of charge.